Hey guys, got this great name I really like, the Revolting Man. Uh, it's been something I played around with for a long time. Uh, it's come to represent an entire philosophy for me, and I thought I'd kind of put it out there. There's some underlying assumptions to being a revolting man. The underlying assumptions are that first off, society is sick and dying. Uh, if you need me to back that up, you probably wouldn't believe me if I did. But all you gotta do is look around and see that people are for the first time in our nation's history, we're dying younger than we ever have in the past. We're dying from things like suicide, uh, drug addiction, even legal addiction, prescription medicines, obesity. We've invented crazy things to make ourselves sick with, like sex addiction and all gluten intolerances and all this weird stuff we've come up with. There's just, it's obvious that we're unhappy and dissatisfied and listless and bored, and it can't keep up. You can also look at the population numbers; they're crashing. Uh, the economic malaise that they can't seem to shake off. All sorts of reasons why society, at least Western society, is certainly on the downward trend, if nothing else. There's just no denying that. Our time in the West is up. It's been a good 2,000-year run, 1,500-year run, let's say, but it's over. We're dead, and it's time for the next group to come in and take over. The other underlying assumption to being a revolting man is that men have a role to play, a God-given role, and these two assumptions lead me to a lot of conclusions about what I call being a revolting man. And I'm a revolting man on three levels. I'm revolting on the level that I'm rebelling against this corrupt and dying society we live in. I'm revolting to the people in that corrupt and dying society. There's an old Wizard of Id cartoon, a newspaper cartoon, where the wizard runs into the king and says, "Sire, sire, the peasants are revolting," and the king's sitting on his throne, and he kind of rolls his eyes and says, "Tell me about it." Oh, that's me. I'm the revolting peasant. I'm revolting in that I'm rebelling, and I'm revolting in that that the elites despise people like me, and find us weird and disgusting and incomprehensible. The third way I'm revolting is that I revolt myself. I look at my moral condition and my natural state, and if I allowed myself to live in my natural condition or in my natural state, I would be. I'm not a nice person. So those are the three underlying assumptions of being a revolting man. What does that lead you? What does that lead me, though, to do or decide, or how does that get applied into your life? Well, first off is you gotta withdraw from society to the extent you can. None of us can. No man's an island. The hermit thing doesn't work. You've got to have an income. We can't produce everything that we would like to have. There is some necessity to function inside society, and I do. I work outside the homestead and whatnot. And we're still good little economic engines, like we're Marxist theory says we're supposed to be. But to a large extent, we've withdrawn from that. We don't do the consumerist thing. We've withdrawn from most of the modern, for lack of a better word, dogma. There's things in the modern world you're supposed to accept and believe, and I've withdrawn my family and myself from the vast majority of that. The other thing you have to do is you have to figure out, to be a revolting man, if you feel like you've got this God-given role, you got to figure out what that role is. The catalyst for me was a very personally destructive divorce, where I tried to do what I thought the church and Christianity expected of a good man, and I failed spectacularly. I mean, just spectacularly failed on every level. And I had to stop and re-examine everything, and I won't bore you with all the details. I think a man needs to figure this stuff out for himself. but I came to the conclusion that I had a deep and powerful calling. Not just me. Every man has this deep and powerful calling on their life to reflect God's nature and God's character, and to show that to their family and to their community and those around them, that God's basic traits of justice and kindness and love, from a masculine place. I don't even want to say love, because we've turned love into something that it is not. You know, we've defined all kinds of hateful, mean, ugly, destructive interactions as love, and the vast majority of which are just that. They're just hateful and mean and destructive and selfish. But my calling as a man is to demonstrate those things first to my wife and my children, and then those around me. And when you have that onus on you to reflect those traits and that character, then it becomes very important that you discover what that character is. And then suddenly it becomes very important that you let some of this foolishness go. Some of the stuff we make up and we get wrapped around the axle about, you got to stop it. You got to not wallow in it. And it becomes very important then to know who God is, because you can't reflect who He is if you don't know who He is. And that probably, it comes down at the very core of it. That's the core for me of being a revolting man, because human nature itself rebels against God and the divine, and we run from it, and we try to run to ourselves. And so to revolt as a man for me is to then submit, or to try to submit. It's a difficult process to what God requires of me, and what God requires from me is fear and obedience, and some form of faithfulness and integrity. And then when I do those things, when I fear God and try to obey God, then I can turn around and try to reflect those positive character traits that He wants to develop in me, like any good father would, and try to reflect those to those around me. The practical side of all this, man, is that you've got to be a leader. You got to be a leader in your home. Being a leader doesn't mean you get people to do what you want. It means that you're willing to stand up and be seen, even when it's embarrassing, even when it's not what everyone else is doing, even when you kind of get ridiculed. And it's easy when you start to think about it as this big heroic thing. But the vast majority of the time, you're not. It's nothing even remotely heroic. It's embarrassing. You look silly. People kind of laugh and snicker at you. It's not like they're angry and mad, and you're standing, valiantly against the hordes. You're kind of marginalized, and you're off there on the corner, and everyone's pointing at you and sniggering. That's when it's really, really hard, because you're like, heck, come on, I'm strong. I'm not stupid. You're stupid. But that's the basis of being a revolting man. Now it starts getting way complicated after that for me, and it probably would for you too if you started digging into it. But you got to know who you're called to be. You got to know who God is, and you got to be willing to stick it in everybody else's eye. And when you come to that place, and it's not natural, but when you come to that place, it's very liberating, and it can be a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun to kind of be above it all, off to the side, observing and throwing bricks in from the corner. I'm still a Christian. We still attend church, but my beliefs have changed so drastically from mainstream Christianity that some of the most fun I have is kind of throwing flaming bricks at Christians and watch their eyes sort of get wide and they freak out. But anywho, that's pretty much it. I'm sure I'll try to talk more about it later, but that's sort of why I call my channel The Revolting Man. I revolt myself, I revolt God, I revolt you, and I am in turn rebelling against all of you except God. That's it. Thanks, guys.